Where does the majority of our knowledge come from? You might be surprised to find out that most of our learning happens outside of formal settings such as classrooms, lecture halls, and the insides of dusty old textbooks. That's what the 70-20-10 model shows us. This popular theoretical model tells us how we build our knowledge, and it's not afraid to get specific about the details. In fact, these special numbers act as guidelines that help us to understand how we can get the balance of our training program just right. Hey everyone, Harry here from Growth Engineering, and today we are going to be discussing the 70-20-10 model. We'll crack the code on these mysterious numbers, exploring what they mean, how they can be applied, some of the benefits for your learning approach, and some of the limitations as well. Okay, let's get started. To understand this model properly, we should start by understanding its origins. So the 70-20-10 model emerged back in the 1980s as a result of research done by three individuals from the Center for Creative Leadership. Their names are Michael Lombardo, Morgan McCall, and Robert Eichinger. They sent a survey out to 191 executives, asking them how they believe they learn best. Specifically, they asked them to list three key events in their career, things that changed the way that they manage people. And the results were shocking, at least at the time. So what did these surprising survey results reveal? Well, the data showed a learning breakdown that challenged our traditional thinking. It suggested that as much as 70% of our learning takes place through challenging assignments, and that a further 20% of learning takes place through developmental relationships. Taken together, these two approaches are often referred to as informal learning, as it's learning that occurs naturally and without any particular structure. Finally, and perhaps most surprisingly, the data suggested that just 10% of our learning takes place through structured, formal learning or training programs, which is perhaps a little bit lower than you might expect. This suggests that learning and knowledge transfer in general is most effective when the focus is on real-world application and social interaction. So let's break down the 70-20-10 model in simple terms. It suggests that 70% of learning takes place through experience, 20% of learning takes place through social learning or through collaboration with others, and just a measly 10% of learning takes place through structured formal training programs. So let's take the example of learning to drive a car. Sure, memorizing the rules of the road and learning the highway code is part of it. That's that tiny 10%. But the majority of your learning takes place when you get behind the wheel and start to learn through practical application. That's the more meaningful 70%. Finally, that's then supported by developmental relationships with somebody like a driving instructor, which forms that final 20% of the learning pie. Okay, I think at this stage we should discuss some of the limitations of the 70-20-10 model and the research that went into forming it. For instance, we are working with a relatively small sample size here, under 200 executives, and self-reported survey data is subjective at best. Plus, I personally always feel a little bit suspicious when I see the kinds of round numbers that are used in this model and in other models like the debunked learning pyramid. Many also feel that the 70-20-10 model goes too far in downplaying the role of formal learning. While seeking to elevate experiential learning and social learning is a worthy goal, surely formal learning accounts for more than just 10% of our overall knowledge intake. With that said, the 70-20-10 model does hold plenty of intuitive power, so we should try not to get too hung up on those exact percentages. It doesn't purport to be an exact science, and it's not a rigid rulebook. It's more of a compass to guide our learning journey. As one of the thought leaders in this space, Charles Jennings, puts it, it's a reference model, not a recipe. The key takeaway is that when it comes to learning, we should try to find the balance that works best for us. So what does this mean for you and your learning program? Well, the 70-20-10 model sheds light on how we can form a well-rounded training program or learning approach. So if you've been cramming textbooks or spending too long inside classrooms, then maybe it's time to reconsider what you're doing to improve your learning outcomes. You should look out for opportunities to get involved with challenging assignments and real-world projects, and you should also be seeking out opportunities for collaboration as you drive towards those improved outcomes. The beauty of this is that you can customize the mix as you seek to find that perfect blend for you. How you do that is completely up to you, but at least you have these guidelines to follow thanks to the 70-20-10 model. So there we have it. The 70-20-10 model tells us how we take in information from the world around us, and it gives us a roadmap to creating better balanced training and learning programs. Remember, it's not about hitting those percentages precisely, it's about finding the blend and the balance that's right for you. Okay, that's it from me today. I hope you've enjoyed this somewhat informal learning experience. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.